Alexander Technique teachers are extremely bad at both of those. And I think I think that is a major reason why John's statement is probably true in one sense, but I don't think it's the fundamental issue. I think the fundamental issue is that teachers have not figured out how to get the word out about the technique and about themselves in an effective way.
So aside from having a website that doesn't have a lot of skeletons and pictures of FM Alexander and pictures of the teacher with his hand around a student's neck, what is...
That's a big aside, though, There are an awful lot of sites like that. It's unbelievable. Aside from that, and aside from not mentioning on your website where you are in the world, or even having the term Alexander Technique anywhere near the top of your site, or aside from having a site that is so poorly designed or so amateurishly designed that no one's going to take you seriously.
Aside from that.
Yeah, aside from that, or aside from, as is true for most teachers, not even having a website. Yeah, go ahead, carry on.
Aside from that, what are the
biggest obstacles
to a teacher getting clients?
Oh, sorry, what was the question again? What was my
aside
advice?
From those minor details we mentioned, what are the biggest obstacles to teachers getting enough clients so that they can make a living teaching what they love, the Alexander Technique?
Well, I think a fundamental thing is that most teachers have not really thought through how someone can be interested in what this work is about and what it can be useful for. And I think partly it's the fact that if you're immersed in a 3-year training course surrounded by people who just take it all for granted as being good, you have to step out of that box and pretend like you've never heard of it, and bear in mind that there are a zillion competing methods out there that all promise things that sound remarkably similar to the untrained ear as the Alexander Technique. So I think a lot of it is just being able to convey the basic Alexander ideas to the public in a way that would motivate the public to find out more. And I think most teachers are very poor at that. I believe I was very poor at that when I first started. I look back on some of the articles I wrote back in the 80s, and I think it's amazing that anyone ever actually read these or took them seriously. I think you have to really put yourself outside of yourself and pretend that you don't know about this, and how are you going to explain it to people in a way that's going to motivate them. But I also think, getting back to the website thing, the web right now, when I started, there was no internet, so that was not an issue. But at the moment, the internet is the main way for anybody to get clients, and to not be there is pretty much equivalent to not having a phone number at this point. In fact, it's slightly worse than not having a phone number. If you had to choose one or the other, I'd drop the phone number or drop the landline and get a cheap voice over internet service and do with that, and use that money to get your website up, because that's really how you're going to find clients today. That and word of mouth, and some local promotion, certainly, bulletin boards and the local health food store and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say that's pretty secondary these days.
How have you balanced your desire to write and say what you think with, I presume, a desire to have good relationships with your fellow teachers?
I used to worry a lot more about that than I do now. I used to be very concerned about that and not say anything that I thought would go against Alexander dogma. But I've come to realize that Alexander dogma is pretty fluid and can be, and some of it didn't make a lot of sense. I don't really worry about that anymore. I have my way of looking at the technique and how it fits in and how I see it, and I don't think I don't think I'm doing anything outrageous, but I suppose, well, I know there are some teachers who would think anyone who's working even a hint of them in the hint of the Marge tradition would be suspect. I know that there are teachers like that. And I really could care less. It doesn't make any difference to me. I mean, one advantage I have here is there really are no other teachers here. I have one colleague in Omaha who teaches in a very similar way that I do, so we work together a lot. And I don't have any, like, immediate, you know, people to criticize me locally, so I don't really worry about it.
Why do you live in Lincoln, Nebraska?
Well, that's where Marge lived, and I came out here to when she sort of retired at age 90 and didn't want to travel anymore. I came out here to organize workshops for her here, and I met someone and got married, so that's why I'm here. And I never imagined I'd be living here, but it's a really nice place. I still teach in Toronto on a regular basis, and I find Lincoln's a really pleasant place to live.
Could you elaborate on the statement I heard you say that you learned more about freeing your neck from craniosacral work than from Alexander technique?
Yeah, boy. Well, it's true. I mean, I've been someone who's explored other modalities for quite some time. I've done a lot of Feldenkrais work. I've been Rolfed. I've had a few Traeger sessions. Trying to think what else I've done, but the modality. Oh, and also I've done some physical therapy related work, but it's not standard PT, but that's a kind of a specialized physical therapy work. But the method that has intrigued me the most outside of the Alexander technique for me has been cranial sacral work, and my take on cranial work is that it can get at very subtle tensions, very subtle patterns of tension that are way below any possibility of direct consciousness and redirection on your part, and also very complicated, little fascial twists and turns that I can't. I think in theory you could direct yourself out of them, but it might take a few hundred lifetimes to do it. And I found that for me, it's very complementary to Alexander work. It gets at the very deep, complex patterns that I don't think Alexander directions as a practical matter can get to that easily. And I found that I actually really got to a point where I felt my neck was a lot freer, largely from cranial work. So that's just the fact. That was my experience. Now, not everyone would have that experience, but that was mine. And I think partly because the tension in my neck that was so complicated. It wasn't simple. It was very twisty. It had all kinds of very odd components to it. I don't know whether that's I think maybe it was a bit atypical, but I'm not sure. But the cranial work really helped me with that.